The moment Priya Sharma checked her bank account, her world shattered. $200,000 every penny her family's textile business had saved vanished overnight. Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen, the numbers mocking her from the dusty office in her Rajasthan village. The air, thick with the scent of dyed cotton and desert heat, felt suffocating. She refreshed the page, praying it was a glitch, but the balance stayed zero. Her heart pounded, a sickening realization creeping in. She'd been robbed, and it was her fault. It was June 2025, and Priya, at 32, was the backbone of Sharma Textiles, a small but proud operation in the arid heart of rural India. Her father had started it decades ago, weaving vibrant fabrics that clothed families across the state. Priya had modernized it, securing online orders and international clients, lifting her village's economy. The business employed 30 locals' mothers, fathers, cousins who depended on her. Now, their livelihoods hung by a thread. The nightmare began 3 days earlier with a WhatsApp message. Priya was in the workshop, inspecting a batch of indigo saris, when her phone pinged. It was from Arjun Patel, her trusted supplier in Jaipur, or so she thought. The message was urgent. Priya, our bank details changed. New payment due tomorrow for the last shipment. Use this link to update. It was oddly formal, but Arjun had been erratic lately, citing personal issues. The link looked legitimate, branded with his company's logo. He even referenced their recent chat about delayed cotton deliveries, a detail only he'd know. Exhausted from a 12-hour day, Priya clicked, entered her bank credentials, and moved on. She didn't notice the subtle clues, the slight misspelling in the URL, the too perfect tone. The AI behind the message had studied her. It scraped her social media, her LinkedIn posts. Her WhatsApp chats leaked from a third-party breach. It knew her habits, her trusts, her pressures. It mimicked Arjun's voice with chilling precision, crafting a trap she couldn't resist. By the time she realized the message wasn't from him, the money was gone, siphoned to an offshore account, untraceable. Priya sank into her chair, the hum of sewing machines outside fading to a dull roar. Her mind raced to her employees, Lada, who supported 3 kids, Ravi, who just built a house. She pictured her father's weathered face, his pride in her taking over. How could she tell them the village, already battered by drought, would crumble without the business? Her chest tightened, guilt and panic clawing at her. She'd been careful, hadn't she? She'd read about scams, installed antivirus software, even attended a cybersecurity workshop in Jaipur. Yet here she was, duped by a machine smarter than her. She called Arjun, her voice shaking. "Did you send me a payment link?" His confusion confirmed her worst fears. "No, Priya, I didn't." "What's happened?" she explained, her words stumbling. Arjun's silence was deafening. "You need to call the bank, now," he said finally. She did, but the manager's response was grim. The funds were transferred to a foreign account, likely gone forever. The police were next, but their cybercrime unit was understaffed, overwhelmed by cases like hers. "We'll try," the officer said, but his tone lacked hope. Priya sat alone that night, the office lit by a single bulb. The weight of her mistake crushed her. She thought of her late mother, who'd taught her to weave, and her younger brother, studying in Delhi, relying on her. The village's future rested on her shoulders, and she'd failed. But beneath the despair, a flicker of resolve stirred. She wouldn't let this destroy everything. She'd fight for her family, her workers, her home. The AI had outsmarted her once, but she'd learn its game. She had to. If her story hits you, give it a like, drop a comment, or subscribe for more. Stories like Priya's happen every day, and sharing them spreads awareness. What would you do in her shoes? Let me know below. The morning after the theft, Priya woke to the sound of goats bleating outside her family's mud brick home. Her eyes burned from sleeplessness. the weight of her loss heavier in the dawn's harsh light. She hadn't told anyone yet, not her employees, not her brother, not even her father, who was visiting relatives in Jodhpur. The secret churned in her gut as she brewed chai, the clink of the pot too loud in the quiet. She had to act, but where to start? The village of Keddie, with its sandy lanes and scattered neem trees, felt too small to hold her crisis. Sharma Textiles' office was a short walk from her home, past the weavers' huts and the communal well where women gossiped. Priya avoided their eyes, afraid her face would betray her. Inside the office, the air was stale, the computer screen a reminder of her mistake. She opened WhatsApp, rereading the fake message from Arjun. The words were so convincing, so personal. How had they known about the cotton delays? Her stomach twisted as she recalled the link she'd clicked. She hadn't even questioned it. Priya's first move was to call her bank again, hoping for a miracle. The manager, Mr. Gupta, was kinder this time, but no less final. The transfer went to a shell account in Singapore, he explained. We've flagged it, but recovery is unlikely. You should file a report with the Cybercrime division in Jaipur. Priya nodded, though he couldn't see her, and hung up. Jaipur was 3 hours away, a trip she couldn't afford, not now. But sitting idle wasn't an option. She grabbed her scooter keys and a shawl, determination overriding her fear. The ride to Jaipur was a blur of desert wind and worry. Priya's mind replayed the past week, searching for clues she'd missed. She'd been so busy, orders piling up. A new client in Dubai, her father's health checkup. The message had caught her at her weakest. Late at night, her guard down. She cursed herself for not calling Arjun to confirm, but who had time for that? The AI had exploited her trust, her routine, her life. It felt personal, like a betrayal by someone she knew. At the cybercrime office, a harried officer named Vikram took her statement. The room was cramped, files stacked on every surface, a fan creaking overhead. AI phishing, he said, scribbling notes. They're getting cleverer. They scrape data from social media, chats, anything public. Did you share much online? Priya hesitated. She'd posted about the business on Instagram, LinkedIn, even WhatsApp stories, photos of saris, updates on shipments, proud moments with her team. Had that been enough, Vikram's frown suggested it was. They build profiles, mimic people you trust. You're not the first. He showed her a report, thousands of cases like hers across India. Small businesses gutted by scams. The number staggered her. 10 million lost in Rajasthan alone last year. Vikram promised to investigate, but his desk told a different story. Too many cases, too few resources. Check your accounts for more breaches, he advised, and warn your employees. Priya left feeling smaller, the city's bustle mocking her helplessness. She'd built Sharma Textiles from nothing, yet a faceless machine had undone it in minutes. Back in Keddie, the workshop buzzed with oblivious chatter. Priya watched her workers Lata laughing, Ravi adjusting a loom, and her throat tightened. She couldn't tell them yet. It would spread panic. Instead, she called a meeting with her accountant, Meena, a sharp-eyed woman who'd been with the business for years. In the office, Priya confessed everything. Meena's face paled, but she didn't scold. We have some savings in the secondary account, she said. Enough for payroll, maybe 2 months. After that, she didn't finish. Priya nodded, grateful for Meena's calm. They agreed to keep it quiet while Priya searched for answers. That night, Priya scrolled through her social media, deleting posts, tightening privacy settings, each photo of her with clients, her team. Her father felt like a vulnerability now. The AI had weaponized her pride. She wondered who was behind it. A hacker in a distant city, a syndicate. The thought chilled her, but giving up wasn't in her blood. She'd find a way to save her business, her village. She had to. This story's just beginning. Hit like, comment your thoughts, or subscribe to follow Priya's fight. Have you ever been scammed online? Share below, I'm reading. The sun beat down on Keddy as Priya stood outside the workshop. Her phone pressed to her ear. It was 2 days after her trip to Jaipur, and she was on hold with a cybersecurity consultant she'd found online. Her savings were dwindling, but she needed answers. The village carried on around her children chasing a stray dog. The rhythmic clack of looms, but Priya felt detached, like she was watching her life unravel through a stranger's eyes. The consultant finally picked up, his voice crisp. "Mrs. Sharma, I've reviewed your case. This was a sophisticated AI attack. You're lucky it wasn't worse." Lucky, she wanted to scream. Her business was bleeding out. The consultant, Anil, worked remotely from Bengaluru. He explained how the phishing scam likely worked. The AI had scraped her digital footprint Instagram posts, WhatsApp metadata, even her LinkedIn connections to craft a message that felt like Arjun. They probably used a large language model, he said, trained to mimic tone and context. It's not just a script. It thinks. Priya's head spun. She pictured a machine dissecting her life, turning her trust into a weapon. Anil suggested a forensic audit of her systems, but the cost $5,000 made her wince. She agreed to a smaller service, a security check, and a report. Back in the office, Priya opened her laptop, dreading what she'd find. Anil had sent instructions to scan for breaches. As the software ran, she thought of her workers. She'd overheard Lada yesterday, planning her daughter's birthday. The guilt gnawed harder. Meena, the accountant, knocked and entered, her face grim. The Dubai client needs payment confirmation for their order. What do I say? Priya's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten the shipment, distracted by the crisis. Tell them it's delayed, she said, hating the lie. Meena nodded, but lingered. Priya, you can't carry this alone. Tell the team. Priya shook her head. Not yet. The scan finished, revealing a nightmare. Her email had been compromised for weeks, silently forwarding messages to an unknown server. The AI hadn't just mimicked Arjun, it had watched her, learning her schedule, her contacts, her weaknesses. Priya felt violated, her privacy stripped bare. She called Anil, her voice tight. How do I stop this? He was blunt. Change every password. Enable two-factor authentication. And stop posting online. You're a target now. A target! The word echoed as she hung up. She wasn't just a victim. She was prey. Priya spent the afternoon securing her accounts, her fingers trembling on the keyboard. Each step felt like locking a door after the thief had already left. She thought of her father, who'd trusted her to lead. He'd return tomorrow, and she'd have to confess. The thought made her nauseous. To distract herself, she walked to the workshop, where the weavers were finishing a batch of saris. Ravi waved, his smile warm. These are for Mumbai. Best we've done. Priya forced a nod, her throat tight. These people weren't just employees, they were family. Losing the business would break them. That evening, Priya visited the village elder, Mohanji, a wiry man with kind eyes. His hut smelled of incense, a small radio crackling with news. She didn't tell him everything, only that the business was in trouble. You've carried heavy burdens before, he said, pouring her tea. This village trusts you. His words were meant to comfort, but they stung. Trust was what had gotten her here. Trust in a message, in herself. She left feeling more alone. The stars above Keddy too bright, too indifferent. Back home, Priya found a new email from Anil. The report confirmed her fears the phishing link had installed malware, which relayed her data to a server in Eastern Europe. The hackers were part of a syndicate, he wrote, targeting small businesses across Asia. Recovery was unlikely, but he'd flagged the case to an international task force. Priya stared at the screen, rage mixing with her despair. These faceless criminals had ruined her life from thousands of miles away, but she wouldn't let them win. She'd rebuild, somehow. Priya's fight is far from over. Like, comment, or subscribe to stay with her journey. Ever had a close call with a scam? Drop it below, I'm all ears. Priya's father returned to Keddy at dawn, his silhouette framed by the rising sun as he stepped off the bus. Priya waited at the stop, her heart a knot of dread. She'd rehearsed her confession all night, but seeing his weathered face lined with years of labor and hope made the words stick in her throat. He hugged her, smelling of dust and beetle nut, and asked about the business. Later, she mumbled, guiding him home. The village woke around them, unaware of the storm brewing in her chest. In their small courtyard, over plates of paratha and curd, Priya told him everything. Her voice cracked as she described the WhatsApp message. The stolen $200,000, the malware. Her father, Ramesh, listened silently, his hands still on the table. When she finished, his eyes glistened, but his voice was steady. You trusted. Priya, that's not weakness. It's who we are. His forgiveness cut deeper than anger would have. He asked about the workers, the village. They don't know yet, she admitted. Ramesh nodded. You'll tell them when you're ready, but don't wait too long. The weight of his trust pushed Priya to act. She called a meeting with Anil, the cybersecurity consultant, via a shaky video call. His face filled her laptop screen, framed by a cluttered Bengaluru office. The task force traced the syndicate to a dark web network. He said, they're pros AI-driven, global, but there's a chance to limit further damage. He suggested freezing all business accounts and training her team on scam awareness. The cost was steep, but Priya agreed. Dipping into the secondary account Meena had mentioned, every rupee spent felt like a gamble, but inaction was worse. By afternoon, Priya faced a harder task: the workers. She gathered them in the workshop, the air heavy with the scent of dye and cotton. 30 faces: Lata, Ravi. Others she'd known since childhood watched her expectantly. Her hands shook as she explained the phishing attack, the lost money, the uncertain future. Gasps rippled through the room. Lata's eyes welled up. Ravi stared at the floor. We have enough to pay you for 2 months, Priya said, her voice firm despite her fear. I'm fighting to save this place. I need you with me. Silence followed. Then Ravi stood. We're not leaving. Priya, this is our home too. The others nodded, their loyalty a lifeline. That evening, Priya and Meena pored over the books, searching for ways to stretch their funds. The Dubai order was their best hope if they could ship it. The payment might buy time, but the client was growing impatient, and Priya's delay excuses wouldn't hold much longer. Meena suggested cutting costs, maybe laying off a few workers. Priya recoiled. Not yet, she said. They're family. Meena sighed but didn't argue. Instead, she handed Priya a flyer for a cybersecurity seminar in Jaipur, free for small businesses. Go, Meena urged. Learn how to protect us. Priya rode to Jaipur the next day, the desert wind stinging her face. The seminar was in a sleek conference hall, a world away from Keddy's dust. Experts spoke of AI scams, data breaches, and prevention. Priya took frantic notes, her mind racing. One speaker, a woman named Dr. Kaur, described how AI could analyze voices, emails, even handwriting to deceive. Your data is their ammunition, she warned. Priya thought of her Instagram posts, her careless chats. She approached Dr. Kaur afterward, spilling her story. The woman's eyes softened. You're not alone, she said, handing Priya a card. Call me. I consult pro bono for cases like yours. Back in Keddy, Priya felt a spark of hope. Dr. Kaur's offer was a lifeline, but the clock was ticking. The workers' trust wouldn't last forever, and the village's economy was already faltering, fewer customers at the market. whispers of trouble at Sharma Textiles. Priya lay awake that night, her mind a tangle of fear and resolve. The AI had torn her world apart, but she was learning its tricks. She'd rebuild stronger, smarter. She had to, for Keddy. Priya's story is hiding up. Like, comment, or subscribe to keep up with her battle. Ever faced a crisis that tested your trust? Share below. I'm listening. The desert sky was a bruised purple as Priya sat on her rooftop, clutching Dr. Kaur's card. A week had passed since the Jaipur seminar, and Keddy's quiet nights felt louder with her racing thoughts. She'd called Dr. Kaur the day before, spilling the details of the AI phishing scam over a crackling line. The cybersecurity expert had listened patiently, then offered to audit Sharma Textiles' systems for free and guide Priya through recovery. "You're a fighter," Dr. Kaur had said. "Let's make sure you win." Priya clung to those words, but the weight of her responsibility to her workers, her village, her father pressed harder each day. The next morning, Priya met Meena in the office, the air thick with the hum of a struggling fan. They finalized the Dubai shipment, rushing to meet the client's deadline. Priya's fingers trembled as she typed the confirmation email, double-checking every link and address. The fear of another trap lingered, a shadow over every click. Meena noticed her hesitation. "You're doing all you can," she said softly. Priya nodded, but the knot in her chest didn't loosen. The payment from Dubai would cover a month's expenses, maybe two, but it wasn't enough to replace the stolen $200,000. Dr. Kaur arrived in Keddy that afternoon, a wiry woman with sharp eyes and a laptop bag slung over her shoulder. The villagers stared as she walked through the dusty lanes. Outsiders were rare here. In the workshop, she set up her equipment, ignoring the curious glances from Lata and Ravi. Priya watched, half awed, half anxious, as Dr. Kaur scanned their systems. "Your email was the entry point," she confirmed, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "The malware's gone, but your data's still out there. We need to lock everything down." She taught Priya to use encrypted apps, set up firewalls, and spot phishing red flags. It was overwhelming, but Priya absorbed every word, scribbling notes like a student. The audit revealed more scars from the attack. The hackers had accessed client lists, supplier contracts, even Priya's personal emails. Dr. Kaur's face was grim. "They could come back or sell your data to others." Priya's stomach churned. She pictured her life, her business, her family picked apart by faceless criminals. But Dr. Kaur was practical. "We'll rebuild your defenses, and you need to train your team." Priya agreed, scheduling a workshop for the workers. She couldn't undo the past, but she could protect the future. That evening, Priya gathered her employees under the workshop's tin roof. The air smelled of dye and sweat, the looms silent for once. She stood beside Dr. Kaur, who explained phishing scams in simple terms, showing examples of fake messages. The workers listened, wide-eyed, as she described how AI could mimic anyone, a supplier, a friend, even a loved one. Lada raised her hand, hesitant. "How do we know what's real, Dr.?" Kaur's answer was blunt. "Question everything. Call, don't click." Priya saw fear in their faces, but also determination. They were in this together. Later, Priya walked Dr. Kaur to the bus stop, the village glowing under a crescent moon. "You've given us hope," Priya said, her voice thick. Dr. Kaur smiled. "You gave yourself hope. Keep learning." "Priya, you're stronger than you know." As the bus disappeared into the desert, Priya felt a shift. The scam had broken her, but it hadn't beaten her. She was rebuilding not just the business, but herself. Back home, Priya found her father waiting, a cup of chai in his hands. "You're carrying too much," he said, his eyes searching hers. She sat beside him, the silence heavy. "I have to," she whispered. He shook his head. "We carry it together." His words unlocked something in her, and for the first time since the scam, she cried. Not from despair, but from the strength she felt rising within her. The AI had exploited her trust, but it couldn't take her resolve. Priya's battle is intensifying. Like, comment, or subscribe to follow her fight. Have you ever had to rebuild after a loss? Share your story below. I'm reading every word. The Dubai payment arrived 3 days later, a lifeline in Priya's inbox. She stared at the bank notification, $15,000, enough to cover payroll and keep Sharma Textiles afloat for another month. Relief washed over her, but it was fleeting. The stolen $200,000 still loomed, a wound that wouldn't heal. In the office, surrounded by stacks of invoices and the faint hum of the workshop, Priya felt the walls closing in. Katie's future hung on her next moves, and every choice felt like a gamble. She called Dr. Kaur, who was back in Jaipur, to share the update. "Good," Dr. Kaur said, her voice steady over the phone. "Now use this time to strengthen your business, reach out to clients, secure new orders, and keep training your team." Priya nodded, scribbling notes. Dr. Kaur also suggested contacting a local NGO that supported small businesses hit by cybercrime. "They offer low-interest loans and legal aid," she said. "It's not much, but it's a start." Priya thanked her, a spark of hope igniting. She wasn't alone in this fight. That afternoon, Priya visited the village market, where stalls sold spices, cloth, and handmade pots. The air buzzed with chatter, but she noticed fewer customers, a ripple effect of the business's struggle. She stopped at Lada's cousin's tea stall, ordering a glass of masala chai. "Heard things are tough at the workshop," he said, pouring the steaming liquid. Priya forced a smile. "We're managing." The lie tasted bitter, word was spreading, and soon the village would know the full truth. She had to act fast. Back at the workshop, Priya gathered her team for another training session. She'd taken Dr. Kaur's lessons and simplified them, using examples her workers could grasp. Standing before the looms, she held up her phone, showing a fake email she'd created as a test. "See the sender's address. It's off by 1 letter. That's a red flag." Ravi leaned forward, squinting. "But it looks so real." Priya nodded. "That's the point. Check everything twice." The workers murmured, absorbing the lesson. Their trust in her fueled her resolve. Later, Priya contacted the NGO Dr. Kaur had mentioned. The coordinator, a woman named Sunita, listened to her story over a video call. "We've seen this before," Sunita said, her tone empathetic. "AI scams are crippling small businesses. We can offer a $10,000 loan and connect you with a lawyer to pursue the hackers." Priya's heart lifted, but the lawyer's words were sobering. "Recovery is rare. Focus on prevention and rebuilding." She agreed to the loan, knowing it was a drop in the bucket, but grateful for any help. The next day, Priya pitched new orders to clients in Mumbai and Delhi, her voice steady despite her nerves. She emphasized Sharma Textiles' quality, glossing over the crisis. One client, a boutique owner in Mumbai, hesitated. "Heard you had trouble. Can you deliver on time?" Priya's chest tightened, but she lied smoothly. "We're stronger than ever." The client agreed to a small order, a victory that felt hollow. She couldn't keep lying forever, but the truth might scare them away. That night, Priya sat with her father under the stars, the desert air cool against her skin. He'd been quiet lately, watching her with a mix of pride and worry. "You're pushing too hard," he said. Passing her a cup of milk tea, she sighed, the weight of his words sinking in. If I don't, we lose everything. He touched her hand. You're not alone. Priya, the village is with you. His faith steadied her, but the pressure was relentless. The AI had stolen more than money, it had stolen her peace. As she lay in bed, Priya's mind raced. The NGO loan, the new orders, the training, they were steps forward. But the hackers were still out there, untouchable. She imagined them watching, waiting for her next mistake. The thought chilled her, but it also sharpened her focus. She'd outsmart them, not with tech, but with grit. Katie wasn't just her home, it was her fight. Priya's story is reaching a turning point. Like, comment, or subscribe to see how she pushes forward. Ever fought to save something you love? Tell me below, I'm all ears. The NGO loan landed in Sharma Textiles' account a week later. $10,000 that felt like a breath of air in a suffocating room. Priya sat in her office. The faint clatter of looms outside, a reminder of what she was fighting for. The money wasn't enough to replace the stolen $200,000, but it could pay suppliers and keep the workshop running a little longer. She wired funds to cover a cotton shipment, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, double-checking every detail. The memory of the phishing link still burned, a wound that hadn't scabbed over. Katie was changing. Whispers about the business's troubles had spread, and Priya felt eyes on her at the market, in the temple, even at home. Lada's husband had asked about job security. Ravi had stopped joking with the others. The village's faith in her was fraying, and Priya couldn't blame them. She'd called a meeting that morning, standing before her workers with a forced calm. We've got new orders and a loan, she'd said. We're not giving up. Their nods were hesitant, but they returned to their looms. She clung to their effort like a lifeline. Priya's days blurred into a grind of calls, emails, and late-night planning. The Mumbai client's order shipped on time, earning a small profit that she funneled back into the business. She reached out to Dr. Kaur for advice on securing new clients, and the expert suggested a website overhaul with better security. Make it professional, but safe. Dr. Kaur said over a video call, and stop sharing personal details online. Priya hired a local web designer, a young man from a nearby town, using part of the loan. Each expense felt like a risk, but stagnation was a bigger threat. The lawyer from the NGO, Mr. Desai, called with an update on the hackers. The task force traced the syndicate to a server in Ukraine, he said. His voice clipped, but their ghosts knew accounts, encrypted networks. We're trying. Priya's hope dimmed. She dreamed of justice, of seeing the thieves caught, but the reality was colder. The AI that had gutted her business was a tool in a larger machine, one she couldn't touch. Mr. Desai urged her to focus on recovery. You're rebuilding. That's your revenge. She wanted to believe him. One evening, Priya joined her father at the village well, where elders gathered to talk. The air was thick with dust and the scent of jasmine from a nearby shrine. Mohanji, the elder, asked about the business, his eyes kind but probing. Priya hesitated, then told the truth: the scam, the loan, the fight to survive. The elders listened, their faces unreadable. You've carried this alone too long. Mohanji said, let us help. They offered to rally the village small donations, extra hands, anything to keep Sharma Textiles alive. Priya's throat tightened. She hadn't realized how much she needed their support. The next day, the village showed up. Women brought food to the workshop. Men helped pack orders. Lada's daughter drew a sign for the office, Katie stands strong. Priya nearly cried, her guilt easing for the first time in weeks. She organized a community meeting, sharing Dr. Kaur's scam prevention tips. The villagers listened, some taking notes, others asking questions. What if they target us next? A farmer asked. Priya's answer was honest. Be vigilant. Trust, but verify. She felt like a leader again, not just a victim. That night, Priya sat with her father, the stars sharp above their courtyard. He'd been her anchor, quiet but steady. "You've made the village proud," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Priya shook her head. "I almost lost everything." He squeezed her hand. "But you didn't. You're still here." His words settled into her, a reminder of her strength. The AI had tried to break her, but Katie's spirit, her spirit, was tougher. Priya's fight is peaking. Like, comment, or subscribe to see how it ends. Ever seen a community rally like this? Share your story below. I'm reading everyone. The monsoon arrived in Keddie, a soft rain that turned the desert dust to mud and filled the air with the scent of wet earth. Priya stood in the workshop, watching her workers pack a new order for Delhi, their hands swift despite the damp chill. 2 months had passed since the NGO loan, and Sharma Textiles was still breathing barely. The $200, $1,000 loss was a scar, but Priya had stitched together enough to keep going small orders, village support, and a fierce will to survive. Yet the fight wasn't over, and she knew it. The website relaunch had brought a trickle of new clients, drawn by the vibrant saris and Priya's story, which she'd shared cautiously online. She'd followed Dr. Kaur's advice, locking down her digital presence with encrypted apps and strict privacy settings. Every email, every link was scrutinized. The fear of another AI scam lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake, but fear wasn't her master anymore. She'd learned to question, to verify, to fight smarter. Priya's biggest victory was the village itself. The elders' call for support had sparked a quiet revolution. Families pooled small sums, 50 rupees here, 100 there to help with supplies. Lada organized a market stall to sell surplus fabric, raising enough to repair a broken loom. Ravi's brother, a truck driver, offered free deliveries to Jaipur. Their efforts couldn't replace the stolen money, but they rebuilt something deeper hope. Katie was no longer just Priya's burden. It was their shared fight. One afternoon, Dr. Kaur called with news. "The task force shut down a server linked to your hackers," she said, her voice crackling through the phone. "No arrests yet, but it's a blow to their network." Priya's heart lifted, then sank. It wasn't justice, not fully, but it was something. She thanked Dr. Kaur, who'd become a mentor, a friend. "You're a case study now," Dr. Kaur added. "I'm sharing your story at a conference how a small business fought back." Priya blushed, humbled. Her pain was becoming a warning, a lesson for others. The lawyer, Mr. Desai, sent a final report. The stolen funds were likely gone, laundered through a maze of offshore accounts. He urged Priya to let go of the chase and focus on growth. She took his advice, redirecting her energy to the business. A new client in Bengaluru placed a large order, enough to hire back 2 weavers she'd nearly laid off. Meena, ever practical, suggested investing in solar panels to cut costs. Priya agreed, using the last of the loan. Each step forward felt like defiance against the faceless thieves. One evening, Priya gathered the village at the temple, its walls lit by oil lamps. The rain had stopped, leaving a cool breeze. She stood before them, her father at her side, and spoke from the heart. "We were hit hard," she said, her voice steady, "but you didn't let us fall. Sharma Textiles is yours as much as mine." She shared what she'd learned: never click without checking. Guard your data. Trust but verify. The villagers nodded, some clutching phones, others whispering to neighbors. Mohanji stood, his voice booming. "You've made us stronger. Priya." The crowd clapped, and for the first time in months, she smiled without forcing it. Later, under the neem tree by her house, Priya sat with her father, the night alive with crickets. "I thought I'd failed you," she admitted, her voice soft. He shook his head. "You saved us." His pride was a warmth she hadn't felt in months. The AI had exploited her trust, but it couldn't break her spirit or Katie's. She'd rebuilt, not to where they were, but to something new, tougher, wiser. Priya's story doesn't end here. Cyber scams are everywhere, waiting for a slip. Protect yourself. Question every message, secure your data, learn from her fight, like, comment, or subscribe to stay with these stories. They matter. Have you or someone you know faced a scam? Share below. Let's warn others. And if Priya's journey moved you, pass it on. The next episode's coming, diving into another battle against the digital dark. Stay vigilant, stay strong,